CBD Luke is coming up to talk. Come up here, Luke. And he's been a bit hesitant to come up and talk, but he's come over. He's got his life on the edge, on the line. He's a really brave man, and I hope he's going to tell us what's happening with CBD and what's not happening with it.
Hey everyone. So I wore this jacket today because there's obviously a lot of questions around cannabis. There's a lot of questions around cancer, how it works, and there's a lot of questions around legalisation. Well, in terms of how it works, I don't really know more than anyone else does. In terms of is it going to be legalised, I'm absolutely sure that we are on the brink of this edifice of idiocy collapsing, and that we'll soon be able to do it very normally, and it will just be a part of our system. I'm sure that we're all kind of got a bit of shell shock from this drug war that's been meted out on people and their well-being for so long, and I just want to say that I'm totally positive that we're on the brink of a very new age. And yeah, good. And does cannabis cure cancer? Last time I was here, I said I don't really know if cannabis is going to be really effective in curing cancer, and I just wanted to say that in terms of that question, I absolutely think cannabis can and does cure cancer. I'm absolutely sure of it because I've now seen several cases of people who weren't doing anything else other than taking cannabis medicines who are now fully cleared of cancer. And that's super exciting. And, you know, there's a lot of other things to add in around holistic practices that are absolutely important. The last two speakers were absolutely wonderful in their kind of balance of viewpoints of how we can approach our health as being a holistic thing. But I certainly think that cannabis, I have seen people approach cannabis positively and negatively and still get amazing results. So it in itself has extremely powerful and effective ways of healing people. So a lot of what I was going to talk about today has been talked about already, so I've sat here while things have been going on, and I've wrote down a bunch of things that I'd just like to say and share with you, so I'm going to refer to this a bit, and that'll also help my stage fright. So I just wanted to agree with Andrew wholeheartedly that, you know, the death of good information and of progress is of dogma and saying that I've got the way or this is the way, and I think we can all just stay really open-minded around the potentials here and share as much information as we can. Try not to, you know, put patents on everything. Try and just really understand that we're infants. We really are. We're taking our first steps here, and we'll grow up and we'll stand up and we'll have this a huge breadth of knowledge. And the only way that happens is to share it. So everyone share as much as you can. You know, I said last time here that, you know, at best we can hope to be kind of a conductor of a symphony that's already playing. Well, I've taken a step back from that, and I'm not a conductor nor the symphony. I think we're kind of the audience, and there's a super intelligence and cohesion of all the cannabinoids, phytonutrients, and depending on how cosmic you are, and I believe in plant consciousness driving this thing. So that's where I'm at now, is realising that I'm part of an audience and I really love what I'm seeing. So what Andrew said before around the tumours having CB1 and CB2 receptors, something came to me there is that, you know, I'm here largely to speak about CBD, but I really, really want to acknowledge THC as well, all the other cannabinoids that are present. I'm not for or against either one. I just see that they work particularly well alone or in cohesion in particular cases. So it's kind of a tale of two cannabinoids to a degree here. But, you know, in these tumours that don't have CB1 or CB2 receptors, from the limited understanding that we do have, CBD actually doesn't work through the CB1 or CB2 receptors, which may be why resistant tumours react really well with THC and CBD together. The CBD has different activities and ways of affecting tumour growth. So the other thing that came up before was I've just questions that I have is why do we just want the cannabinoids? Why not the phytonutrients? Why are we so hooked on just getting out the cannabinoids when the plant itself is a whole plant? Whole plant extracts, I think, should be welcomed. And mixtures of CBD, CBG, CBA, THCA, all of these things, is that it's kind of like loading up. It's a really rough metaphor, but if you've got a 22 in which you load one thing in and shoot a target, you're a lot less likely to hit it than if you stick lots of different things in the end of your shotgun and you get a scatter effect. So all of these things working together are really important. Isolates aren't fantastic in my opinion. There was one thing that I thought I just wanted to address around bioavailability that was mentioned before but got moved on from, is that is the putting it in as a suppository, whether it affects the liver or not, due to how far you put it in there. What it certainly does is it boosts the bioavailability greatly. This is evidenced by all sorts of trials that have nothing to do at all with cannabis. These have been going on for a long period of time, so suppositories are a really good thing. I personally, one of the cases that I'm going to address, because I just want to kind of speak, the science and other things and cosmology have been addressed really well here, but I just wanted to add some human cases that, of myself, of other people around me, and one of them who I spoke to just last night, she gave me a call with her results back. She has brain lesion cancer, she has lymph node cancer, and she has lung tumour cancer. And she's been doing, we decided at the outset, in conjunction with each other, that she was really going to go for this. That was her will involved here. And so I supported her in every way to take it in as many different ways as she could. So she has built up to 1 gram a day of THC rectally. She takes 1 gram a day of CBD orally, and with the MCT oils and under the tongue as well, which obviously crosses the blood-brain barrier quickly, and also in a vaporizer. And she got her results back, and so last night we had the joyful conversation that her brain lesion is completely gone, her lymph nodes are completely clear, and her lung cancer is now her lung tumour is now half the size that it was 3 months ago. So that's just, these stories that come in are a beautiful balance to the, and to the balance that must be spoken about too, is that it doesn't work for everybody. As prior speakers have said, there's such a complex array of issues present in anyone's pathology of trying to deal with these things that there can't be an expectation of a silver bullet here. But I certainly have never seen one thing do so much good to so many people across such a broad range of issues, not just relating to cancer. In terms of extraction, I just wanted to talk about another method of extraction that is available in most countries that are further along the path that we're inevitably going to tread, in my opinion, is CO2 extraction. So CO2 is one of the building blocks of plant life. As you know, plant life is sequestered CO2. So using CO2 methods, I feel, is very close to perfect, in that it's part of the building block of the plant life itself. None of the other solvents do we particularly use to grow a plant, but CO2, it's necessary to plant life growth. Secondary to that, once the extraction is complete, CO2 is then reclaimed. It's not sent back into the atmosphere, it's reclaimed, and you are left with absolutely no residues whatsoever. The plant extract is completely whole. There is nothing else in it. We don't have to worry about or stress about whether or not there's toxic residues left over, which of course we know is potentially part of other extraction methods. So that's just, once again, I would never say don't do other methods, because we have what we have available today, and the good far outweighs the bad in what we have available here in this country. But very soon we'll be able to do CO2 extractions. The CBD that I've been working with now for quite some time, it's called supercritical CO2 extraction, and how that's done is a large chamber, which is pressure capable, is filled with plant material that has under 7% water. And then into that is pumped liquid CO2, and then that's heated to 31.7 degrees. There's slight variance in that, but then the chamber is pressurised hugely, and what happens is the CO2 goes what's called supercritical. It goes somewhere between a liquid and a gaseous state and strips cannabinoids and other things from the plant, which is, once again, there's a bit of, there's some, that was part of my question before, is why don't we want phytonutrients? What's wrong with chlorophyll? Why don't we want plant waxes? When we talk about an entourage effect of cannabinoids, well, there's also a whole plant there to work with, and everything else, every other part of its constituents are, in my view, important. So, so in terms of, there was a statement made before that I'd just like to address, with what is my limited understanding, is that I personally do believe that cannabis is very adaptogenic. It can stimulate and cause cell death or mitochondria of the cells to arc up and create life. So that's very adaptogenic. So if we were to extract from one plant high THC, which we've got here in abundance in this country, and add in another plant that is of the same species, it's all cannabis, then these things are very adaptogenic. If we can accept that, then why wouldn't those two very adaptogenic plants adapt to each other that are so biosimilar? And so that's my opinion, is that absolutely you can add in CBD and THC in varying amounts to create all sorts of different effects depending on the issue being addressed. I personally feel that it's more than possible and should be encouraged, in order for a whole lot of reasons, some of which I'll address in a moment. I don't, from my limited understanding, don't believe that CBD is produced by ourselves from CBG or these other things. What is clear that is produced is an anandamide. An anandamide is a THC-like compound, and it works on the CB1 and CB2 receptors. We absolutely produce that. That's been shown to be the case. And what CBD does when it encounters CB1 and CB2 receptors, it actually blocks them from receiving anandamide or THC, which then causes breakdown of THC and anandamide, which effectively means you probably all understand what an SSRI is. An SSRI medication stops the uptake of serotonin through your serotonin receptors. That leaves more serotonin in the body to become bioavailable and in other ways and used. This is exactly the same mechanisms that happen with CBD and THC. Is that the THC? It's definitely, in my opinion, part of the reason why the two together are greater than the sum of their parts, because it makes the THC far more bioavailable for far longer than in isolation, which I think will lead to, instead of the need for such huge high doses of THC, once we introduce CBD, we'll be able to, with time, science and more understanding, work out the ratios to introduce CBD and THC together, so we don't need to go on the very psychotropic journey that a 60 gram in 90-day experience induces. So I did it myself at the start, a couple of years ago when I started doing this. I did the 60 grams in 90 days to understand what I'd be doing to people, and I already have a super high tolerance to cannabis. I've smoked cannabis since I was 15 and up to a quarter of an ounce a day very regularly until a couple of years ago, until I started to understand the medicinal context and work with oils, and also just understand myself better. I can see that with time we'll understand things a lot better, and what I can say definitely is from the science, but also my understanding experience of sitting with now a lot of people that have been through our dispensary system, is that CBD greatly attenuates the effects of THC high. So I can absolutely say that that regardless of whether you believe one or other is better, that adding in the two together creates the environment for you to be able to uptake THC. So if you're a THC proponent, well then just adding the THC, whether you think it's going to work or not as a medicine, it will absolutely allow you to take enough THC to be effective. So that's for sure. Okay. I wanted to just also say on a point that Dr. Andrew Catalaris made, that I personally really do believe there is an issue with high THC strains, and the reason I believe that is my own experience with it and lots of other people that I've seen not becoming more well using super high THC strains. What I do see is a lot of the people that I've treated, I work in some drug rehab, I work in mental health, I've seen that people who were having an issue with smoking too much and becoming dissociated, becoming paranoid and these other things, is that if you add in some CBD, then you ameliorate those effects, so you balance it greatly. So whilst I don't have a problem with high THC, I think it's got to be balanced up with higher CBD, and now there's amazing seed banks overseas where CBD is being bred back in. There is also a point that was addressed before. CBD was present in strains for a long time, and it wasn't until very recently that we started breeding CBD out using polyploid breeding and other techniques where you wipe out a lot of the genetics, and then what's left are these super high nutrient and water absorbing strains that get very big and that have super high THC. This was a commercial issue that happened, just the same as hemp strains were bred for particular attributes for commercial purposes. So is why we've got no CBD left in our strains. It's simply because commercialisation of weed has brought, and the seed banks and all these things have brought this drive for really high THC, and we actually uptake all these other cannabinoids and turn them into THC. So I don't have a problem with THC at all, but in balance, it certainly is a problem, and I believe it can absolutely trigger mental health issues. And if there's too much of that, I think it can also actually create it over time, depending on your disposition and a whole lot of other things. But so I'm just calling for balance. That's all really in our approach to these understandings. Obviously, the drug war itself is the major issue. I think we all agree on that the environment itself is sick, leading to a lot of the issues that arise around cannabis being prevalent, because a lot of the paranoias and fears that are voiced by people who are unwell that use a lot of cannabis are very real. There are people watching, there are people who want to take you away, there are people who want to charge you with things. I've been through it all myself before, and it's not pleasant. So, and I'll get to my current situation around what's happened with our dispensary shortly. So, just around the THC versus CBD, the way I've come to sort of understand these two things and how they work is I thought about it, and just tried to write something, and I just see it as it's like it's like a marriage of two people, a functional marriage, of course, of two therapists who are individually very effective in their own right and have a great deal of positive attributes, but in conjunction and in symbiosis, that activity becomes far more impressive. And occasionally also these two partners will balance each other where needed, where the other person is in too much excess. So I really do believe that the two are very important in most cases. But when it comes to people that approach me with things like extreme bipolar, psychosis, schizophrenia and these other things, and anxiety disorders, I do encourage using CBD by itself for a time. CBD has literally a 95% positive. I would call it a temporary curative effect, because you need to keep redosing. But around anxiety, I've never ever seen anything deal with anxiety so effectively, ever, bar nothing. And if I then add THC in there, I get some mixed results depending on the person, the place, and the time. But decarboxylated CBD is incredibly calming all the time to everyone. And Furthermore, around the issue of THC or CBD, there is kind of two camps in it. What I would say is that CBD allows people who either have ideological blocks or are hypersensitive to gain an understanding that cannabis medicines aren't all what they've been purported to be by the years and years of drug war and all of that. That it gives people who are on the more straight side of life or just very sensitive, have all sorts of fears around cannabis. It allows them a doorway into this world. And I've seen a lot of people who before were just completely closed-minded about THC open their hearts and minds and are now, they approach me and said, I will never ever do THC, it's a drug, it's this or that, but I'm interested in this CBD because the medical world has recognised it. It's now Schedule 4 in Australia, it's been taken off Schedule 9. That doesn't make it's many more available at this point in time, but a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't have approached this medicine are. So all of us who smoke or who appreciate the effects of THC can just keep an open heart and mind to other people who have been more affected by the drug war, to so that we all kind of come together, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to come with all of us working together to create the best outcomes here is very important, I believe. So, around cancer, I just wanted to mention the cases of cancer that I've seen positively affected, other than Anne, she said I could speak about her directly. Andrew mentioned before about melanoma. I likewise think that melanomas and these things, and in fact, I personally feel that a lot of cancers, if there's a surgical option that isn't too destructive to other systems in the body, surgeries are quite a good option. Obviously, chemo and radiation have some really terrible effects, and I don't support them, but if someone comes to me, I certainly don't turn them away, because I've seen people do chemo, radiation and walk away from it and spend years rebuilding themselves with the CBDs, THCs, and be reasonably well. So I would never tell anyone what to do. I'm not a doctor, but and my suggestion is that if you're going to do chemo, radiation, then definitely do cannabis medicines, because it can really help. As far as surgery goes, I think that if there's a surgical option there, it's worth considering. The reason being is I spoke to. Obviously, we all know that tumours are very hard to kill. The bigger they get, the more so that is. I spoke to a really lovely guy that I met at a funeral, and he works in a crematorium, and what he told me is that when a person is cremated and all that's, we all think that what's left is ashes. It's not the case. Is that what's left over is the husk and shell of tumours and the ash of the body. So this gives us some idea of how hard these things are. And so if we can start from dealing with a very small p, it's easier to deal with. The people that I've seen really deal with cancer very quickly are people in the early stages. Part of the reason I believe this is true is just that how hard those things are. So it's that's my thing around surgery. I have a really lovely old bloke who really didn't want anything to do with cannabis. And his doorway in was through, he had a melanoma, a big melanoma on his arm. It was 15 centimetres long, and they cut it out. And his son, who I'd helped offer a strong addiction to Xanax with the medicine had helped offer a strong addiction to Xanax. He had convinced his dad, well, if you're not willing to take it, if you're not willing to change your consciousness, if you're not willing to go there at all, how about when they cut it open, we'll just smear oil on the suture points, and the fellow agreed to do that, and so he smeared it on there for several weeks. They went back. What they do is with these melanomas and so forth, if it's a big enough cut, they'll open it back up again to see if any was left. So he smeared it on there, and they told the doctors, and when the doctors cut it open, they were amazed to see that not only was there not was the wound healed in a way that was really not regular for an old person. They said, you've healed up like a 15-year-old would, but subsequently to that, we can't see there was ever a tumour present here. This opened his mind to the possibilities here, and because they had subsequently discovered that he had indicative rise of cancer counts on his in his lymph nodes in part of his system. He then did a course of, he still wouldn't take the THC, but he did a course of CBD, and in 6 weeks he'd completely cleared that with the blessing of his doctors. So just a little shout out now to all the doctors and oncologists that refer to us quite regularly now, who have got a super open mind about this. The people in the hospices that are, you know, the kind of, the secret's out, and I think it's on the verge of full acceptance. I truly do, because of the kind of people that we're being referred to, that are being referred to us, and the kind of people that are referring people to us. So, and a lot of really old people too. So absolutely love that. Good on you. That's great. A lady in Hungary who has had a melanoma. She must have been on holidays. It's not that much sun in Hungary. But she got melanoma, and she's been applying THC oil directly to the skin, and it has gone completely. This is, I will need to ask Andrew about his opinions of whether, if it's cleared completely on top, whether that could mean there's still roots there. He brought up a really good point in what was a wonderful talk. All right, so I will go into some of the other cases that I've just been a part of. And first of all, I'd just like to just start with myself. Have I still got time? All right, you tell me whenever you want me to jump off. All right, cool. I wonder. Okay, all right, well, I'll deal with these, and then I'd like to just talk about the legal issues that am currently embroiled in due to starting a dispensary online and going right out there with what we're doing. Myself, I had a long history with all sorts of drug abuse. I'm an addictive person. I like peak experiences. I really go with whatever I go with big time, and that's a blessing and a burden. But I subsequently I learned to heal myself from the worst of those ravages. I had severe memory disorders. I had incredibly poor health. I was suicidal. I tried suicide at one point. It didn't work. That was really great. It showed me the value of failure in life, which is, it really did. I used to not sleep very well. I have a very anxious disposition. You can probably see, even being up here, I feel, there's something in that. My liver was damaged greatly. It was not well. I did a lot of different things, so I'm not saying that CBD, THC, and oils has been the only thing that's helped me. I've been getting myself well, and then subsequently helping get other people well for a long time. But one of the key things that came along for me was CBD. I've never had something that's allowed me so much space to balance myself. I've just never had anything, and that's continued to work for me. It's continued to assist in how I deal with my outer world, so how I interact with people. I'm a very passionate person, and that can come out in almost polar ways. And having CBD's just helped me to be a lot more calm. My partner is a lot happier. My family's happier, and also just in terms of this is all the culmination of not even a part of a long road too, but in terms of my addictive traits, I just really don't feel like I'm caught up on any one thing anymore, other than doing the best that I can to help people out with these medicines. There's nothing that I feel I have this driving need for, and I'm sure it has something to do with the neural balance that's created so strongly with CBD. My dad's really is strongly bipolar. He's so lovely to be around. since he started taking CBD. He used to take THC all the time. He's smoked for 40 years. That would sometimes be wonderful for him, and I think sometimes it was actually really unhelpful for him since he started taking CBD. And he smokes as well, but he's been an absolute joy to be around. He's reflecting on himself in a way that I've never seen before, and there's obviously could be other reasons for that, but when I ran out a little while ago, he was within weeks starting to talk a bit like his old ways. So I have reintroduced it to him, and he's had amazing results. Life is an up and down thing. We all got to remember that. When it comes to anxiety or depression, life's an up and down thing, and we can't take ourselves away from experiencing life, and nor should we. But for those of us that have either waged chemical warfare on ourselves, or most of us have had chemical warfare in our food or other things waged on ourselves, then taking things that are really good for us and that balances it up, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't think it's drugging ourselves at all. I think it's just assisting ourselves to balance ourselves against the huge array of problems that we're facing in our health as people, in our consciousness, in our bodies, in our environment. So yeah, I'm backing taking the right things at the right time, absolutely. Ice addiction and other forms of strong addiction that in withdrawal, or the experience of or in withdrawal, create psychosis-like states. I've found CBD to be incredible in applying this to other people, to their issues. I wish I had it when I was a massive cokehead and withdrawing. I didn't. I had dealt with it other ways. But I'm giving it to people that are coming off coke and ice and having amazing results, like people that they're able to sleep, not have the dreams. Like these addictions, if given enough time, can seat so deep in the subconscious that it speaks through our dream life, and then that sets us up for the day ahead. So if you can deal with it at a subconscious level, it's an amazing thing. So applying CBD has helped a lot of people that I've come into contact with deal with what's really present, which is their trauma, the reasons why they are in the state that they're in. So I'm backing CBD and sometimes THC for sure, absolutely, as ways to come off really heavy addictions. Applying it to people that are coming off antidepressants and opiates is also really wonderful. I've seen great results there, absolutely. When you deal with things like the antidepressants and Xanax, these other things, what I've noted is that I tried at first to bring people off really quickly. That creates a lot of confusion within the system that's trying to rebalance itself. So whilst, yes, CBD and these other things and THC are strongly helping this recreation of homeostasis, we've still got to be really careful about just jumping off things and jumping onto other things. If we've taken time to take something into ourselves, we should take time to take ourselves off it. In a broader sense, what I've noticed amongst a lot of my patients is, they're not my patients, they're people that come and need help, they're not mine. But these people that come along, what I've noticed is the happiness levels in the family life is super important. So as they de-stress, we were talking before about, someone mentioned about meditation, wonderful thing to say. If we de-stress ourselves, that's when all the natural hormones and everything that happens normally in our natural cycle is able to take place and assist us to healing. There's a great deal of evidence to suggest that meditation alone can cure all sorts of things. And so likewise, things like CBD, THC can put us into meditative states that allow our natural processes to take place. So it's bringing us our own self back into a natural state that allows then the healing to occur. And subsequent to that, if the patient is de-stressed, then the family can de-stress, and that reflects back. That's a mutually giving and receiving thing that happens. If the family's not so stressed out, then the person isn't used to being dealt with in a certain way, and so everything relaxes. Relaxation is key to curing anything, really. I have one of my mentors in the drug rehabilitation stuff, he's said I can speak about this. He had Hep C for 30 years. His liver was way up on cirrhotic, and they said so liver you can get Hep C, and then you get and other forms of induced cirrhosis, alcoholism, so forth, drugs, that you start at fibrotic and then you go cirrhotic, and then and until recently you would generally die. So I've now got quite a few people who are taking this CBD for Hep C. THC, I'll get back to CBD in a minute. THC can be really good for liver issues, but it needs to be done really carefully because THC creates quite a load on the liver. Chinese medicine practitioners would say that you express liver yin a lot, which is why you relax and calm. Then if you're used to smoking a lot and you suddenly run out of pot, suddenly yang rises because there's an excess of yang and there's a deficiency of yin because you've constantly been using that yin to relax out of whatever situation it is. So THC's got to be used carefully in around the liver. Most people have got some liver issues to deal with, I've noted, including myself. CBD has this incredible effect on the liver where that you don't get a liver load from it, doesn't matter how much of it you take. My Chinese medicine practitioners now don't call me, I don't present with liver issues anymore. That's third in the line of things they deal with me after 6-7 years of full-on treatment that I've been taking, of the liver always being present. I'm a lot calmer, my liver isn't inflamed like it was, and this is one of the great effects that CBD and THC also has, is this anti-inflammatory effect. If we get less inflamed, we get calmer, things can relax more, we get better. So his liver was 30. He was given a trial of $180,000 worth of this new incredible liver drugs that have been that have a 99% curative rate on Hep C. Interferon is dead by the end of this year. We'll have these new drugs on the PBS. These things work. I've seen people come back to life now, this guy as well. But anyway, he was so deeply ill, they rushed him through as one of 6 people in Australia to get this initial trial. And we treated him with CBD, which to come off the morphine that he was on for a long time. He then showed up to get his course of medicines. They ran this complex liver test, and they said, well, there's a huge anomaly here. Your liver's showing 7, not 30. This is impossible. This is a medical impossibility. You're going to have to come back, and we'll do it again tomorrow. And you probably won't be able to get these drugs, if we have to show this scan. He came back the next day. He had the same results. They said, all right, we're going to just have to lie here because otherwise you don't get your medicine. So, amazing result that could have gone bad because he's now completely clear of Hep C altogether. There is suggestion that CBD might be able to cure Hep C. I don't know, but what certainly happened is a medical impossibility that a cirrhotic liver could go back to fibrotic. So I realise time's getting on here. So people with strokes, issues to do with facial muscles, other muscles not working, I've really seen some incredible things happen there. Palsies, things. The neurology combined with muscular contraction seems to be affected really well with CBD. Depression and anxiety. The CBD affects something called adrenaline, which is part of the cardiovascular system. It affects the way our cardiovascular system works. These receptors also affect dopamine. Dopamine affects pleasurable feelings, sleep, mood, a whole lot of other things. Also 5-HT receptors, which is to do with serotonin. CBD affects 5-HT1A receptors, which once again are kind of like a natural SSRI. They block the receptors and they stop the downgrading or the breakdown of dopamine and serotonin through the adrenaline and the cardiovascular, but then in the 5-HT receptors. So we've got these boosting of serotonin and dopamine. A little footnote is that if people have anxiety, you give them decarboxylated CBD. CBDA can induce anxiety in people that are prone to it. For people who are depressed, you would give them CBDA, because it's uplifting. So every person needs to be worked with individually in order to, depending on what their particular issue is, to get the right result. I think that's very important. All right, social phobias. As I said before, social phobias of people who do and don't smoke. Often people that smoke a lot are less socially interactive. I've got quite a few people who are challenged in that way who now aren't, because they have some CBD. They can still have their smoke, which I support. It's a really nice thing to have a smoke, but it's nice to also be able to socially interact. 15 years ago when I started smoking, we were all a lot more socially interactive on pot, and that's because back then there used to be more CBD present. That's my belief, and now we've bred it out and it's not. And the experience has changed a bit, but by adding a bit of CBD back into it, you can still maintain completely interactive. The flow of thought stays, and it's that self-conscious kind of watching yourself kind of thing that I get is certainly not pronounced or not there at all, and allows me to stay connected. I just wanted to say that in terms of as emphysema was mentioned before, I have a couple of people from the Sarajevan refugees from the war a long time ago. He's got a huge cancer on his neck. She had emphysema. She cured herself of emphysema using a mixture of oats, 4 handfuls of oats. I'll just run over this really quickly, but it's fascinating about these herbal things. 4 handfuls of oats in a pot of boiling water, 2 litres, boiling that up for 20 minutes, drinking that over the day, a teaspoon of ethanol, a teaspoon of butter, and she started spewing out this black stuff. She showed me all this. It was incredible. This lady that had been through so much grief because of the war, so much smoking, and her husband, who was a combatant in that war, so deeply affected with this PTSD. We don't know what's going to happen with his cancer yet, but certainly he hasn't slept since the war properly. She hasn't stopped grieving since the war, since all the terrible things that happened. She's cleared herself of emphysema. He's using CBD and THC. He's sleeping like he's never slept before, and they're really happy with each other. There's tears when we catch up. It's a beautiful thing to see. Yeah. And so I just wanted to speak. I'm just praying that this one, to whatever deity will listen, I don't mind. But we've got this guy, this very brave guy over in Malaysia. You'll probably know what the drug laws are like over there. He's contacted me over a period of time, and he's been insistent that we send him some CBD. So I've sent him a concealed package. It's on its way over there now. So I just wanted to say how far people are willing to go to get better, and just to absolutely support that in whatever way we can. And I just really hope this one gets through for him. I'm sure it will, but people are willing to go a long way here. So that's what I'm saying about when it seems like this kind of war isn't going to get won. It absolutely is, because everyone's health is affected at some level, or someone around them, and we all actually care. And all the people who don't, this edifice of idiocy and ignorance and so forth, it's just been about propaganda and misunderstandings and the viewpoints of very few people affecting a whole lot of people. If you want an amazing book on how the drug war was born and how it's been continued on, read Chasing the Scream. It'll make you, it's elucidating beyond belief. It's amazing how little how small a group of people can affect the world so negatively, but it also, in reverse, is a very positive thing, because I never believe that a small amount of people can't affect the world positively, and it's just all it takes is sometimes very small things, and we don't know what these ripple effects will be. So everybody do whatever we can, and let's do that. So I'll wind up in a couple of minutes. I feel really, I feel quite delicate about speaking this openly and publicly, because for a lot of reasons really, but it's important to do so. Is that after speaking here last time, I felt really motivated to do more. I met people who were likewise motivated to do more, and so we decided we were going to start importing as much CBD as Australia needed to do what it needs to do with it, because there's no CBD available here. There's a lot of good people doing great things with THC, but there's very little high CBD plants available for people. I mean, nearly nothing. And so we decided, right, we're going to bring in CBD in bulk and import it. I had this serendipitous meeting with a guy who was paid to travel the world and set up what is a merchant company for CBD. They're highly for profit and so forth. We met up together, and subsequent to our meeting, he went and divested himself of his job and his shares in the company, and came and started, our community-based dispensary, our CBD Oil Australia organisation that as a non-for-profit entity, where we decided we were going to knock the world market price in half, and we were going to start in the country where it's still totally oppressed. So with this determination, we backed that up by the fact that he'd travelled the world for 18 months, paid to set up this company. He met everyone in the medical marijuana movement, everyone in the CBD movement, and so we zeroed in on what is, in our consideration, the world's best, most integrous, organic, good manufacturing process certified CBD, backed by a absolutely amazing guy called Henry Vincenti. He started in Doka on the basis that he was a third generation hemp farmer, and as he grew into a young man, he, being often as young men are, a warrior in this old heart, he went out and joined the army. He became a special forces member, and at some point decided that he didn't want to kill people, he wanted to heal them. He came home and got himself a science degree and started growing hemp organically. And so this is the kind of guy that has backed us all the way to do what we're doing. He's never asked for any money up front. He's sent the stuff to us on credit. He truly believes in what we're doing. He had all sorts of awakenings, some things which I wouldn't go through here, but he basically has, at the cost and at the expense of his own market share within Doka, he's supported us to sell it at half the price. So I can't sing this guy's praises enough, but what that's led us to at this current time is we have had, I was thinking before, I know that working with cannabis and taking cannabis is, people say, it stops all sorts of seizures. Well, I didn't have any seizures until I started doing this work, and I've now had 4 in the last 10 days. So we've been moved against. Once again, I want to be careful here to offer a balanced viewpoint on what's happening, because thus far the opponent has not revealed their hand, but there is obviously we've had four large shipments taken in the last 10 days at point of entry. It's evidence from accidentally, hopefully someone just really cares, an email was released to us that had an email thread, because we have made all sorts of inquiries, where is it, this thing, and the way that we brought it in was we thought safe and so forth, and what we got back was a bunch of obfuscations about, they've got it, actually the carrier company, customs use it, all these other people have got it, and we can't tell you. And then one of the carrier company employees sent us an email with one of these kind of nebulous rebuttals, and it happened to have an email thread of about 20 emails long from other agencies to each other. So it's become evidence that it's evident that there is indeed some kind of process going on with all of our staff, and so we're nervously, but with a lot of heart, because we're super determined. We're not going to stop. We're not interested in stopping. It's not happening. So we'll find other ways and other means of getting it in, and I'm sure that we can absolutely ensure ongoing supply shortly. Our parent company overseas has, for the time being, said that they'll honour our price arrangement and give it to our people over here that need it. We have some, probably 200 people. Some of those people are in extremely critical situations. It's disturbing. It's it pisses me off no end that there's. It's not a. In my view, this isn't a hostile move made against me or the organisation I'm part of. This is a hostile move made against the people who are benefiting here, the kids who are seizing, the people whose lives are on the line, the people who nerves are so shot that they can't have meaningful relationships anymore. This is a massively hostile move made on the people. This isn't about me. This isn't about my organisation. This is about what's happening to the people. And our determination is for the people, regardless of what is occurring in our own system at this time. So we already have things in the works of how we're going to deal with this. But for the time being, we can offer all of our people that they get the vastly discounted rate through our parent company Indoka over in Denmark, and they'll honour that. And we have an internal memo that was sent from a regulatory body to customs saying not to take personal amounts of CBD at the border. Obviously what we were bringing in far exceeded what could be deemed a personal amount, unless you like to bath in the stuff, but you know, it's so that's to not give you the full nuts and bolts of the situation. That's where we're at with our current availability and shipments here in Australia. But as I said, we're not going to stop. There's no recourse to that. We're on the edge of, as I said before, this I just can't think of it in any other way as a edifice of ignorance and idiocy, and it's going to fall. And unless people like us continue to do what we're doing and open up websites and openly do what we're doing without any fear, shame or regret, then there's then we can be pushed back. And so us in our organisation are determined to hold the line, and we've had such beautiful messages of support from the people that we've supported, and this will be an ongoing process. And so I wish and hope and leave open the option that the people that are currently holding all of our stock in the various shipments will actually release it, not wanting to pick up what is in a lot of ways I think a political hot potato. I'm hoping that they'll release it and allow us to continue what we're doing unmolested. We have our stuff's lab analysed, it's GMP, organic certified, it has extremely low amounts of THC. What more could deal with the argument of all of this backyard chemistry and all the arguments that are put out of, it's bad for the kids, you know what I'm saying? All this kind of stuff that's being said, we've circumvented all those issues with this product, and yet it's still been seized. So I'm hoping that it will be released, and that's maybe a idealistic vain hope, I don't know. But I'm hoping that is, and so we're not making any hostile moves other than the inquiries that we've made. We're now going, Sun Tzu, Art of War, allow the opponent to reveal themselves, because we're totally revealed. We have a website, I openly take calls, we do the very best we can with what resources and limited training and understanding that we have in order to help people. And CBD's been taken off Schedule 9, it's on Schedule 4. That doesn't make it any more available here, because the TGA regulatory body that is essentially it was created to introduce pharmaceuticals into the Australian system, and has absolutely no capability nor interest in involving herbal medicines that aren't single molecule functions into our healthcare system. That's who's dealing with CBD at the moment. They don't want to push anything through with any great rapidity, and it usually takes 12, 18 months at best to get something through, and costs up to $1 million on the bottom side of that, a tenth of that. But the kind of rigorous attention that's been given to pot for such a long time, there's no way they're going to push it through on the lower end of that. So it's appearing to allow us, yes, this is obviously medically recognised elsewhere and so forth, CBD. It's appearing to give us something that hasn't been given at all, not one bit. So until that happens, we remain determined to do the very best that we can until products that have come through the system. We're hoping that there's a medical cannabis regulatory body set up that hasn't been corrupted from the top down by the pharmaceutical industry, and there's obviously quite a lot of political support for that occurring, and I absolutely hope that it's sooner rather than later, but until then we'll continue to do what we do. And yeah, thanks very much for that. I appreciate the time.
I'm going to keep you moving.
What's the name of the website?
There's 3 websites. I want to make them clear for you. Ready? CBDOilAustralia.org, community-based dispensary. That's with 1 D, isn't it? Community-based dispensary.org, and the mothership is endoca.com. ENDOCA. Correct?
Give it to us one more time.
Endoca.com, CBDOilAustralia.org, and community-based-dispensary.org. Correct?
That's right. No.
He's a pioneer. He's a really bold man. And Buddy Customs in Sydney will be very balanced.
Good on you.